Hi, this is Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and on today's video we'll be taking a somewhat retrospective look at the board, which I think is one of the best boards that ever came out on the B450 platform. This is Asrock's B450M Pro4. Keep watching to find out more. Okay, so in today's video we'll be taking a look at Asrock's B450M Pro4. Part of the Pro4 series of boards which Asrock released back in August 2018, back in the heady days of AMD Ryzen's comeback. Now this board is effectively very similar to the full-size ATX version, the B450 Pro4, although obviously some compromises have had to be made to fit into this micro ATX form factor, but actually it still contains an awful lot of features which are still relevant even in today's market, now in 2022, and at the price I got this board for, just over £50 here in the UK as a special deal from CCL in the UK. This is basically one of the best boards you can still get on the market for a relatively reasonable price. Although the current retail price of this in the UK is somewhere in the region of about £70. So obviously there are other alternatives available, but I still feel that this is actually a really good board and worth taking a closer look at, which is exactly what we're going to do today. Now this board was actually a refurbished unit, or a kind of a semi-used board, so I can't go through and do the full unboxing and show you all the peripherals and all the accessories that are included in the box, but we will take a quick look at the box just out of basically just looking back at how things used to be. So Asrock, this was basically pretty much their pinnacle. Of recent times, the B550 boards and some of the newer boards, especially for Intel, haven't done particularly well, as we've seen in recent reviews. But I think the B450, it was a time of hope, and Asrock were definitely climbing up and stating their place in the motherboard market. So with the B450M Pro4, this particular version actually came BIOS ready with the 3000 support, which for a lot of people was actually a very welcome sign, although realistically this board, when it was envisioned, was designed really for 1000 and 2000 series processors. Even though this is a slightly older board, it still actually supports up to the latest and greatest 5950X processor for AMD. And actually the B450 range in general pretty much supports every processor on the AM4 platform, and the same can be said for this, although there are certain limitations when it comes to BIOS updates because there are just so many processors to support. Some of the older processors do drop off, especially some of the older Athlon line. Looking at the back of the box, it does go into some of the features which were really making a mark in the industry. Certain things such as dual M.2, which is something which back then pretty much, well, almost nobody was using M.2 drives in 2018 unless you had an extreme amount of money, but now they're becoming very commonplace, so actually having two M.2 slots on this board is a really welcome addition. It was also touting such advancements in USB technology, such as USB 3.1 Gen 2, both with a Type-C and also a Type-A connection for those 10 gigabit per second transfers. And also we're starting to see the more mainstream use of digital VRM controllers. In regard to the specifications, I'll give you a close-up of the specifications on the box right now so you can have a quick look through there, and please feel free to pause the video if you want to take a more in-depth look, but we will be going through those in detail as we look at the motherboard itself. Now obviously if you're buying this board as a brand new product, then you're going to get all those things such as, well, an I/O shield for the back, also things like SATA cables, M.2 screws, an installation guide, and of course a user manual. But as this was essentially a bare board, I've literally got nothing other than the board itself and a box to keep it all in. Fortunately for us, one of our loyal viewers, David Aitkins, has actually got a 3D printer and is going to print us out a nice 3D printed shield, so that is going to make the motherboard look a lot nicer when it comes to the final build. And if you actually want to see the final build of this, we will be doing it in a live stream, so don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification icon so you'll be notified of future video releases. So with all that out of the way, let's take a tour of the motherboard itself. Now as you can see, obviously this is a micro ATX board in the micro ATX form factor, but something which we didn't really get a great deal of back then in those heady days in 2018 and early 2019 was 4 RAM slots on a somewhat budget board. So that is a really good start, and that's actually one of the sort of key selling features of this board at the time. Also, something else which again was becoming to be more and more popular, but not always the norm, was for the power connection at the top for your EPS connection. We've got an 8-pin power connection there, rather than what we used to see, which was just the standard 4-pin connection. Something else which is pretty much mainstream now on almost all boards is VRM cooling solutions. So on this board we've got 2 metal VRM coolers, Now the slight difference between this board, the micro ATX version, and the standard full-size ATX version, the B450 Pro4, the VRM cooler actually is a little bit smaller on this version, so they're not identical, so you are going to have to aim a little bit more air cooling at these to keep temperatures under control if you're using a slightly higher wattage or higher amperage processor. The VRM setup on this board in comparison with more modern boards is somewhat lacking. We've only got a 3+3 phase VRM here, so yeah, it's not the best, but certainly at its time with the B450 range, pretty much most MSI boards, Gigabyte boards, etc. were all using a very similar either 3 or 4 phase VRM, unless you went up to the higher ranges, in which case you'd get a somewhat more substantial VRM. But having said that, many people have used this board over the years with various processors and had pretty decent results. So obviously, slap bang in the middle, we've got our AM4 socket. So this supports processors from the Ryzen 3 1200 and also things like the 200GE, right the way up to the current Ryzen 9 5950X. Although I probably wouldn't recommend that for this type of board, but certainly it is usable. Next to the VRM cooler at the top here, we've got 2 fan headers, one of which is for your CPU fan header, so this is a 1 amp connector. The one above it, as with all the other chassis fan connections, they're all combo units, so you can use them with the chassis fan, water pump, etc. And they're all rated as 2 amp or 24 watts. Moving across, we've got our 4 RAM slots, as I said, so this is supporting obviously DDR4, as was the norm for B450 chipsets. The slight limitation on this, if you are looking at this now with a modern build in 2022, or perhaps beyond that, you are going to be limited to the actual mega transfers available on this particular platform. Now they do state that 3200 megahertz or mega transfers is the kind of the upper limit on this, and actually in my own testing today, putting a Ryzen 5 3600 on here and some DDR4 3600 RAM, it failed to post on numerous occasions. So I ended up actually downclocking the RAM. I set the XMP profile, but set it to 3200 and it booted up no problems whatsoever. So obviously do bear that in mind. If you are looking to put some more modern processors on here, don't expect to be getting those higher frequencies from your RAM unless you want to tweak it a little bit, and it is going to be a matter of the silicon lottery. So moving across the board a little bit more, at the top here we've got a 12 volt RGB header. So this would have been for those excellent Ryzen coolers which we used to get in the boxes with RGB on them, which was again in 2018 was something of a extravagant rarity. And although RGB now is pretty much mainstream and in all builds, a lot of boards actually didn't have any RGB on them whatsoever, especially around this similar price point. Moving down, we've got our 24-pin power connector, and underneath that we've got our USB 3.0 front panel header connection. That's going to be USB 3.1 Gen 1, so that's going to be 5 gigabit per second transfers. Underneath that we've got 4 SATA ports, so that's SATA 3 or 6 gigabit per second. There is going to be a slight trade-off with this if you are going to be using one of the additional M.2 slots, the one underneath here. That is shared from the chipset, so if you are going to populate this with a M.2 SATA-based drive, you are going to lose SATA port 3, so do bear that in mind if you're planning on adding lots of traditional SATA drives. Again, I think for most people in a moderate system, it's going to be either or, but certainly do bear that in mind. So across from that, we've got our Asrock chipset cooler for that B450 chipset. Underneath, we've got our M.2 connection. So this is going to support SATA-based drives only, no NVMe drives, is purely SATA only for this bottom slot. And then moving across at the bottom, we've got our front panel I/O connection. Next to that, there is somewhat of a rarity again. So we've got an additional connection there for 3-pin power LEDs and also a 4-pin speaker output. Next to that, there is a CI1 interface. So that is a chassis intrusion switch, which pretty much no one ever uses. Next to that, we've got 2 fan headers, both of them 4-pin PWM, again 2 amp or 24 watt connections, suitable for either water pumps or chassis fans. Next to that is our CMOS reset, so you can use that to, if you dial in incorrect memory settings, like I did a little bit earlier, then that's really handy, you can get access to that. Even if you've got a graphics card in this top slot here, you've still got really easy access to that CMOS reset. Moving across, we've got 2 USB 2.0 ports for attaching things like additional rear panel connectors for more USBs, or even things like Corsair's lighting nodes, those kinds of things. Moving along a little bit further, we've got a COM port, which again, pretty much nobody uses these days. Next to that is something which back in the day we'd have never even considered, but now potentially you might do. So that is our TPM connections for Asrock's proprietary TPM connections. We've also got a 12 volt RGB connection, and here is one of my favorites, This is the 5-volt addressable RGB connection, which again on B450 chipset boards was something of a rarity unless you went for a high-level Strix board or possibly go up the range in Asrock's own range for something like the Steel Legend, which had an absolute ton of addressable RGB actually on the board, albeit with a very, very similar feature set. Moving along at the bottom, we've got our HD audio connection. So this is for connecting up your HD audio for front panel connections and is connected directly to the Realtek ALC892 chipset, which is a 7.1 enabled, although not the greatest of chipsets and has now been pretty much functionally replaced with the 897, which is essentially the same thing, although just a newer revision of it. This was kind of like the entry level back then and pretty much still is now. Some budget boards based around the B550 chipset and newer still can use that chipset, although it would have been preferable to see the AC1200 series on there. But again, this is a relatively budget board. So moving over to our PCI Express slots. So because obviously the chipset and the limitations of it, the bottom slot here, so that's going to be a PCI Express Gen 2. Although it is a 16 times slot, it's only wired for ×4 connectivity. So this is going to be fine for if you wanted to be crazy enough to put some sort of SLI or Crossfire setup, you could do. Realistically, I think most people will probably use that for maybe an add-on M.2 card or possibly some kind of Wi-Fi extension if you wanted to, because this board has no Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. Moving up slightly, we've got our PCI Express Gen 3 ×16 slot. So this is going to be your graphics card slot. And above that, we've got a single ×1 PCI Express Gen 2 ×1 slot. Also, there is another fan header here. Again, this is going to be one of those 2 amp 24 watt connections. So you can use that for connecting up a bunch of fans if you needed to. We've also got our Ultra M.2 slot. So at the time, Ultra M.2 or PCI Express Gen 3 ×4 slots were actually something of a new thing. So they actually made a big deal about this at the time. So you can put in here a NVMe drive M.2. Sadly, it is only supported NVMe drives, so SATA drives will have to be relegated to the slot down here, but NVMe drives are fine here. So that's it for the motherboard itself. Let's take a look at the rear I.O. So the rear I.O. actually on this board is pretty decent. We've got a fair few USB ports, so we've got 2 USB 2.0s. You've also got a old school keyboard and mouse port should you wish to use it. We've got VGA, DVI-D and HDMI. Now this is something which again, when this board came out, we had processors like the Ryzen 3 2200G, which a lot of people would use in sort of office setups with multiple monitor support. And in those days, you'd quite easily see an older DVI connection, maybe the odd VGA, but we do have HDMI, which will support up to 4K, but only at 30 Hz. That is going to be dependent also on the processor you're using. Various different G series or GE series processors had various limitations to them, so obviously do bear that in mind if you are planning to use those ports. Next to the HDMI port, we've got our USB super speed ports. So these are our USB Gen 3.2. These are 10 gigabit per second ports. So we've got a Type-A on the top and a Type-C underneath that, which again, Type-C on the boards of around about this era was still a relatively new thing. Now clearly we won't have a front panel USB Type-C connection, but actually having one on the back was a welcome addition, although at the time probably never used, but is becoming more and more prevalent these days. Moving across, we've got another 4 USB 3.2 Gen 1 ports, that's Type A, and above that we've got our gigabit LAN, so that is the RTL8111H, providing gigabit, 10100, etc. And next to that we've got our ELNA audio, so that is again connected to the Realtek ALC892 chipset, providing up to 7.1 audio, although realistically if you do want to do that you are have to use your front panel connections and the rear ones at the same time. Sadly no optical out, but again this is or was an extremely budget board at the time. So there we go, there is a somewhat nostalgic look at what Asrock were and where they're going. This really, I believe personally, was kind of like the pinnacle of what Asrock were doing. The B450 range, especially the Pro4s and the Steel Legends, were, well, legendary. They really were. And I'm guaranteeing some of you that are watching this video now, you've probably got systems with this board in or the larger ATX version, and you're looking back with it with fond memories. And actually, I'm really glad I picked this one up. Of all the B450 boards I was looking at to do a relatively budget build, which we've got coming up soon, this was the only one really that had all the features that I actually wanted. Now clearly there are some features which would have been nice to haves, which are omitted from this particular board, one of which is some form of diagnostic LED. In the modern times when we've got new processors, new types of RAM, it's really, really nice to be able to have one of those diagnostic LEDs so you can work out what the problem is, whether or not the CPU isn't recognized, the RAM is at the wrong speed, all those kinds of things. That would have been really cool. Another thing which is really something which actually I think is something they really missed out on is having a BIOS flashback port. So on the back we've got no BIOS flashback, there's no buttons on the board. So if you are in a situation where you're picking up this board for the first time, it's a slightly older one, and you're picking up a Ryzen 5000 series processor, you are going to need an older processor in order to enable to update the BIOS, which is a real shame. Adding a BIOS flashback utility isn't an extremely expensive thing to do and could save a lot of headaches. Having said that, that is really the only two real downsides of this. Of course, it would have been nicer to see a slightly beefier VRM situation, but other than that, I think this board ticks an awful lot of boxes. We've got addressable RGB, we've got a ton of fan headers, although only 4, but certainly better than a lot of other micro ATX boards on the market, and actually it looks pretty nice too. And with a massive range of support for various processors, from the 1000 series up to the 5000 series, I think even now in 2022, if you can pick one up at the right price, the B450M Pro4 still offers a lot of value for money. But my opinion isn't what counts, your opinion is, so let us know what you think about this one in the comment section below. Is this still one of your favourite Asrock boards? Do you feel that Asrock have kind of let things slip a little bit in terms of performance and quality of recent months and years? I personally believe they do, and I think, like I said earlier, this kind of era, the B450 chipset with Pro4 and the Steel Legend, were pretty much the cream of the crop for AM4 processors. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. But for now, I've been Mike, this is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.